The Mystery of BELICENA VILLCA. 5th Book. Epilogue, or Prologue. Chapter 14. As I said, I was going to take the human hearts of Beret and Bishar, when I stopped fascinated. The cause was the scintilla luminis, sparks of light, that started to sprout from them. Thousands of sparks, which jumped in all directions, either turning in circles, or in spiral, or tracing brilliant curves, of whimsical form, impeded me to distinguish the bottom of the hat, and even the own hat. Fascinated for the spectacle, bewitched perhaps, I remembered unintentionally the definition of the alchemist Kenroth. "Ah," he said, "scintillae mundi igni, luminis imirum natura, that is to say, are igneous sparks of the soul of the world, lights that are evidenced in the nature. Those scintillae always accompany the stage of the alchemy, and in that moment were present all the elements of the opus. In the nature's cabinet was the raw material of the hearts, the aqua permanens of the sulphur philosophorum, and was present in the mercury, the great transutor artifex, it means, Uncle Kurt, Schwarzschild, representative of Wetten, which is Hermes, and Mercury. Spinning in a hypnotic whirlwind, the scintillae luminis, when covering my view. Golden sparks, sprouted now from everywhere and furrowed the space until turning off, as if the entire nature would be entertained manifesting the lumen natura. I separated the sight from the mushroom hat, and the carafe of acid, invisible under the bright slope, and, semi-anesthetized, I looked around. From the entire world seemed to emerge scintillae. From the house, from the ground, from the tress, that I didn't see before, but that were erected at 10 steps, from all things emerged a golden and twinkling aura, composed by myriads of scintillae luminis. Or such vision meant the sudden activity of a new sense, which made possible to perceive the anima mundi, a luminositas sensus natura. But a major luminositas attracted my attention. Over the corpses of the ancient killers, in fact, 2 clouds of ectoplasmic vapor started to rise, also shining, due to the emission and absorption of thousands of scintillae. At 1 meter high, such clouds were still spinning in spiral, and nourishing constantly from the milky vapor that emanated from the blood puddles. As in a painting of the Impressionistic school, as in a work of Enrique Matisse, I saw the reality decomposed in millions of points of colors, sparks of light, that were spinning with the form of the lamentum primordial, and the messa confuse, of the chaos natura. With the vision saturated by the boiling of scintillae, I felt that inwardly, and irrationally, a voice was speaking to me. It said, "Yod, Yod, each scintillae is Yod, and I have Avalokiteshvara. And amongst all the scintillae, there are 2 that are the one, are the scintillae ones, the monads of Beret and Bishar, that cannot die." Once chastened for what occurred in Santa Maria, I just was to hear the voices coming from the soul, of my own soul, influenced emotionally by the Great Mother, and remit myself to the Virgin of Agatha. Yes, I closed my ears as I could, because I could not dispense with the grandiose luminositas, and I gave myself to the rapture of the Virgin of the Child of Stone, whose spiritual aid permitted me to sustain myself in such terrible moment. According to what occurred next, I'd have lost the reason undoubtedly, if she not supported my spirit from the origin. Because, in that moment, when the quantity and multiplicity of the scintillae had reached its higher exaltation, all of them opened at once, and showed an inexpressive eye, an eye which was the same eye, Dementiala repeated in all the points of the space. All the nature, all the differentiated things, all what I reached to see and perceive was boiling now of inexpressive eyes, of fish eyes that undoubtedly were looking us. And those eyes of fishes, de oculi piscium, were the eyes of the merciful one, which were opened to contemplate the souls of her beloved children, the souls of Beret and Bishar, which were disembodying in the midst of great terror. Think in the scene. In the general form of the entities nothing has changed. The tree, the ground, the house, the sky, the cloud, the bodies, all the objects continue being the same. But now, we're also overflowing of a seething life of divine eyes, of eyes that look with natural love. Think in the tree, all composed by eyes, and in the house, or in the sky, composed by eyes too, and think that the thousands of myriads, from the tree to the house, and from the house to the tree, and of both to the sky, are the links that bind, and relegate the entities, and constitute the superstructure of the reality. A structure of objects linked to each other by the will of the Creator, and the natural love of the Great Mother. If you have imagined it, it must be thought that, in the scene in which I was, appalled by the omnipresent eyes of Avalokiteshvara, who sees everything, and shaken in my emotional nature for the intense love of the Great Mother, for her unlimited mercy. Thus, first, was the fascination for the scintillae, and then the fright of the panoptic boiling. And the major fright was to verify that my own body was constituted by millions of compassionate eyes. And this phenomenon, terrible, demental, explains why my hand stopped before taking the hearts of the interior of the black hat. Nif. Echiro. The voice of Uncle Kurt was heard at many meters of distance. I knew that this would happen, and I know what you are seeing. Don't be afraid that all is illusion. We still can fulfill our objective. Can you hear me? Yes, Uncle Kurt, I replied astonished. I hear you as if your voice be very far, and I am very influenced by this profusion of eyes that nature manifests, for that monster, in which the world had become. Listen to me well, Echiro. You'll do exactly what I requested to you, and you will answer my questions. You will communicate me what you will see, because here are no more eyes than yours. All the eyes of Avalokiteshvara are illusory, are projections of your own emotional weakness. I made an effort, and I turned towards the direction from where the voice came. I saw millions of brilliant eyes, but, where Uncle Kurt was, where his eyes should be, I just saw two empty basins, two craters of impenetrable blackness, two opened windows to another world. I released a scream of fright, and turned the gaze onwards. Are you with me, Echiro? Uncle Kurt asked abnormally. Yes, Uncle Kurt, I responded once again. You will realize the work. I will just put, at the beginning, the sign of the origin, upon the firestone. I remembered the words of Bursa, in the letter of BELICENA VILLCA. The mortal men, the earthen men, that evolved from the clay, from the firestone at the beginning, which reflected a monad similar to the one, would reach to be at last individuals identical to the stone of fire, as Metatron, the celestial man, the realized archetype, the Lamb, son of Bina. They would be thus, when the temple be ready, and each one occupy his place in the construction, according to the symbol of the Messiah. Would be thus, in the days in which the kingdom of Eve be fulfilled in the earth, and King Messiah would reign, and the Shekinah will be manifested. So many eyes. Yes, such terrible manifestation of Avalokiteshvara, of the Great Mother Bina, was also the Shekinah, as Echiro described it. These octagonal roots, of the tree of Eve, represent Israel's Shekinah. At the beginning of time, the created man was as an earthen structure. At the end, would be as stone of fire. To such stones, he impressed irreversibly the sign of the origin, transforming them into cold stone, into uncoated stone, according to scandalized demons, marking them with the abominable sign. They engraved the abominable sign on the stone of fire, upon which each soul of the earthen men was seated. And the abominable sign cooled the stone of fire, Abenes, and removed it from the end. Then, Cohen's, the stone of fire, must be cleaned with the final lie, which is the cold stone, which mustn't be where it is, because it was not placed at the beginning by the Creator One. Damn stone, stone of scandal, seed of stone. They sowed it, after the beginning, in the soul of the earthen man, and now, it was in the beginning. Transmutemini de lapidis and vivos lapidis philosophicos. That is to say, transmute us, by ourselves, of dead stones, in living philosopher stones. I heard Uncle Kurt repeating the words of the Magister Dawn. Look into the matrix. I see, a golden water, an aqua errans, agitated by uncountable sparks of light. it is the enema panoptis. Put the hearts in the matrix. Without reflecting, I searched the head haphazard. I extracted the viscous organs, and introduced them into the carafe. Once they went sunk into the sulfuric acid, an emanation of toxic vapor forced me to move the head away. By the aperture of the uterus philosophorum, the rebato vapor emerged for a moment, giving the impression that the liquid had entered in combustion. However, soon it went calm, and a new shining started to shine in the interior of the carafe, black this time. In that moment, I barely warned it, because Uncle Kurt, what that I don't lift the gaze from the acid, and its macabre content, but, it was evident that the general morpho-optical manifestation, decreased substantially. "What do you see now?" he asked from his position. "The starry firmament." In fact, the acid had changed of color, and now, the carafe contained a black liquid, negrita, which represented a brilliant surface and illuminated by infinitude of fixed scintillae, sparks of light, which were the stars of a particular microcosm. "What do you see now?" he repeated. "The zodiac. Hundreds, thousands of constellations, all the archetypes of the universe were in the heaven." "What do you see now?" insisted. "Two stars that outstand. Two stars, brighter than all the others, advance and settle down, in a central place, beneath the feet of the Virgin of the Spike, near to the Raven." "What do you see now?" he inquired. "The constellations seem more alive than ever, the archetypes vibrate in heaven, animals of every kind, prepared to descend. I see them, and hear their sound. In reality, the sound of the celestial animals have turned so real, that only when I removed the gaze for an instant from the matrix, I comprehended that certainly, some of them, were present around me. I distinguished with shock 3 roars, and for that reason, I directed such fugacious gaze towards the environ. With the growl of the pit, the bark of the dog, and the roar of the bear. With growing fright, I verified then, that the ectoplasmic clouds, that floated upon the corpses of Beret and Bishar, had acquired the unmistakable form of the wild boar. Upon the corpses of the ancient killers, 2 enormous wild boars were materialized, which growled threateningly, and showed in their bodies the 1,000 eyes of Avaloka XIV, the 1,000 eyes of the Enema Mundi, the 1,000 eyes of the One, the 1,000 eyes of Purusha. The dogs Davis had approached, without doubt called by Uncle Kurt, and they seemed to see them without problems, because they barked with uncontainable impetus. But the greater impression that I had at observing Uncle Kurt. How to explain what I saw? Perhaps, just saying that its form changed. That for moments, he was Uncle Kurt, and for moments, an enormous wrathful bear, an Ursus terricus. But, such explanation would not be absolutely correct. Certainly, Uncle Kurt had become into Bear Man. Was the furor of Uncle Kurt, the furor of the bear warrior, the berserk gangrel, the force that transformed him? I searched Uncle Kurt with the gaze, and I discovered a bear screw, a warrior of the Einhajar order of Wetten, a Hyperborean initiate, in the rooms of Nevton. And the gaze returned stampeded to the eyes, accompanied by a violent roar, and the rhythmically movement, almost ritual, of the powerful paws. But, when he spoke, he was Uncle Kurt again. "What do you see now?" he demanded. "The 2 brighter stars have become in twin wild boars." "What do you see now?" The wild boars flee aghast, and search for the protection of their mother, the dragon of the universe. "What do you see now?" "I see the wild boars, sheltered in the lap of the dragon. And, I see the dragon. It has 1,000 heads, and 1,000 eyes, and in each head, a Star of David, and in each head, appears the countenance of Bina, and their 1,000 mouths sing the song of the Lamb. The dragon, cradled in his arms, to the lamb and the wild boars, at right and left, growl without stop. And making quiet to the dragon, and to the wild boars, the 3 parts of the stars of heaven, sing thus. Avalokiteshvara. Great Mother Bina. The time hath come, hath come. the final holocaust. What do you see now? The dragon Bina sustains the lamb with the right hand, while with the left, takes a coup overflowing with human lie. Now, sheds the content of the coup on the earth. What do you see now? The same stars sing, VILLCA XIV, Great Mother Bina. Thy mercy, cleanest the earth, with the lie of Jehovah. What do you see now? The lie falling to the earth. Two white wild boars furrow the sky, from east to west, announcing aloud, the pestilence, all what the lie touches perishes. The earth becomes in a desert of stones. Only 144,000, who belong to the house of Israel, survive. But they flee from the desert, and take refuge in a valley, which then will be flooded with lie. And the dragon, and the wild boars, become enraged, because there are stones in the desert yet, because the lie has not calcined them, and dissolved as the rest of the living beings. What do you see now? Then, the dragon sends the lamb guarded by his brothers, the twin wild boars, to graze the earth. But the earth is sterile, and the lamb faints between the stones, unable to feed itself. What do you see now? The dragon, owner of a terrible wrath, curses the stones, and the desert of stones, and screams that will search the lamb, before the desert causes them death. The unclean lie, fallen from the sky, and the grime, that achieved to draw out from the earth, were drained to a valley, at the east of the desert of stones, and formed a great sea. Eden and Paradise are the names of that sea, and the Tetras and Tharsis are the names of the desert of stones. What do you see now? The desert has pushed the lamb to the shore, which is likewise the shore of the sea of lie. The dragon, in heaven, screams again that will help his son, who is between the Eden and the Tetras. What do you see now? The 1,000 eyes of the dragon, shining as suns, are concentrated upon the desert of stones, and the stones suffer mortal suffocation. Most of the stones soften and melt, and the desert becomes an enormous lake of boiling lava. Only the hardest stones remain in their sight, maintaining with tenacity their separated form. What do you see now? A terrible clamor rises from the desert, and ascends beyond the dragon. The stones reclaim to the unknowable help against the lamb, and against the mother of the lamb, the dragon Bina, who has tipped over the lie of Jehovah, and taken away their land, and pretends to calcine them, in the desert, for not serve as food for the lamb. What do you see now? A Sikon appeared in the heaven, a virgin, blacker than the night, and with the moon beneath her feet, and wearing a crown of 13 uncuttered stars. Is the virgin of Agatha, who came to succor the stones, in the name of the unknowable. What do you see now? The descent of the virgin produces as a mantle of refreshing blackness upon the desert, which had become a lake of burning lava, and brings immediate relief to the stones. The presence of the virgin refreshes and sticks the stones again, because she interposes between with her blackness, before the 1,000 blistering eyes of the dragon. And the virgin has a spike on her hand, and goes placing the grains upon the desert of stones. And the stones that receive the grain become immune to the fire of heaven, they cannot be softened any more, and remain signalized with a mark, a unique sign, which means the black, the hard, and the cold. And the mark of the virgin is named sign of the vril. What do you see now? Now, the lamb is lost within the darkness and the hardness, and the coldness of the stones, and calls to him mother with despair. The dragon Bina, due to the stones, thread to strange his throat, or submerge him in the sea of lie. What do you see now? The virgin is pregnant, and screams for the pain of birth, and for the anguishes of the delivery. And other signal appeared in heaven. The dragon of an Aglared, which has 1,000 heads, and 1,000 eyes, and 1,000 stars of David on the heads. Its tail sweeps the 3/4 parts of the stars of heaven, and casts them onto the earth, and descend upon the sea of lie, commanded by Tuban's star. And the dragon also descends to take care of the lamb and attack the virgin. What do you see now? The dragon stopped before the virgin, who was close to give birth, to devour his son, when she gave birth. And she gave birth to a child of stone, who is the one that shall reign all the nations with a trident of Raja. Fura is the name of the child of stone. But his son was protected by the dragon when was confused amongst the stones of the desert. And the virgin sheltered in that desert, where she has a place disposed by the unknowable to reside for 2188 days. What do you see now? There is a battle in heaven. Christus Lucifer, and the captain XIV, and the loyal cities, rose to fight against the dragon. The dragon presented battle, and its immortal angels too, and its wild boars and stars. But they didn't prevail, nor was place for them in the heaven. It was precipitated, the great dragon, who is called Jehovah and Satan, who organizes the whole universe. He was precipitated to the earth, and his angels were precipitated with him. What do you see now? I hear a great voice in heaven that says, now the liberation hath come, and the kingdom and might of the unknowable, and the empire of his Christus. Because the jailer of our comrades hath been precipitated, who day and night signalized them, before the gates of the unknowable. But the loyal cities have prevailed, with the pure blood, and for the testimony of the courage that they gave. Because they did not love the warm life so much, as to shun from the death. For this reason fear heavens, and who liveth therein. Woe of the earth and the sea! Because the devil hath descended unto you, possessed by great furor, knowing that his time is short. What do you see now? When the dragon was precipitated to the earth, chased the virgin that has given birth to the child of stone. But the virgin disposed now of the two wings of the great condor, and she could fly to the desert, to her home, where she would resist for 1 cycle, and for 2 cycles, and for a half cycle, far from the presence of the dragon. The dragon vomited through its mouth, behind of the virgin lies a river, to make that the river drags her. But the desert helped the virgin. And the desert opened its mouth, and swallowed the river of life that the dragon vomited again, and slipped it towards the sea of lie, where the lamb was, and the 144,000. And the dragon was furious with the virgin, and went to make the war against the rest offspring of her, those who exhibit a mark, and have the testimony of Christus Lucifer, and sat upon the sea of lie. What do you see now? I see, rising from the desert, a man with the power of a beast. Is a half man, half bear being, or half man half wolf being. For moments is like a bear, and for moments is like a wolf. When he must face the bees of Israel, is like a bear, and when he must fight against the lamb, is like a wolf. He is the son of the virgin of Agatha, who has grown as stone in the desert. He is the Fura, who has returned to outbreak the war against the lamb, and the 144,000. His roar thunders the earth, and at his pass, the stones of the desert raise, those who carry the sign of the vril. And cold stones by the virgin of Agatha are werewolves too, who howl with uncontainable fury. I don't exaggerate if I assure that the roar that emerged in that moment, from where Uncle Kurt was, asking monotonically what do you see now, made tremble the earth. I described what I saw over the surface of the aqua vita of the carafe, but my words had acquired a prophetic formality, which was conformed directly in the unconscious. What is clear was not product of my imagination, was the transmutation of Uncle Kurt and his bestial roars and howls. Not even the 2 ectoplasmatic wild boars, that, each time clearer and patents, were materialized upon the corpses of the 2 ancient killers. To the roars of the bear man, the wild boars responded with the damn Aperian bars, which I also knew now. But, when the werewolf howled, the wild boars trembled, prey of the panic, the hair erectile of terror, and roaring with despair. and I, at perceiving what occurred around me, was trying to maintain the sight hypnotically fixed in the matrix, with the acid and the hearts, and contemplating some visions that, with the fantastic that they could be, were less terrible than the reality of the ranch of BELICENA VILLCA. "What do you see now?" asked the voice of Uncle Kurd clearly. "I see an enormous army, marching formed by those who have the sign of the Virgin, and are as the beast. They are the enemies of the Lamb. And I see that they are guided by the Führer, who is like furious wolf, and accompanied by the Virgin, who flies upon them, bearing the flag of the sign of the Vril, and the spike. And the army of wolves approaches to the Sea of Lie. And the Lamb, and the 144,000 members of the chosen people, established in a white island, situated towards the center of the Sea of Lie, which has been formed with the peak of the Mount Zion. Celestial Jerusalem, and Shambhala, are the names of that island. What do you see now? The Lamb, standing upon the Mount Zion, and with him, the 144,000, who have his name and the name of their Father written on the brow. And I hear the voices of heaven that sound with the emery of the multiple nature. And they sing a new song before the throne of Jehovah, before the 10 Zephirot, before the elders of Israel, and the Shekinah. No one can learn the chant of the creation, except those 144,000, who were rescued from the earth. These are those who don't know the love of the woman, because they are sodomite priests. They are who follow the Lamb, wherever he goes. They constitute the hierarchy of the souls, that goes from the man, till Jehovah, and the Lamb. They don't know the truth of the creation. They are perfect animal man. What do you see now? I see now an age previous to the fall of the dragon. The men, who already had the sign of the Vril, are seen upon the earth, and some angels of the dragon have threatened them, from heaven. One of them, who flies higher in heaven, carries the gospel of the Lamb, and announces the fire holocaust to the dwellers of the earth, to every nation and tribe, language and population, and says with great voice, "Fear of Jehovah and give it him glory, because the time of his judgment hath come. Worship to whom created heaven and earth and sea, and the fountains of water." Another angel, the second, followed him saying, "Babylon the great hath fallen, who gave to drink from the wine of the universal empire, to all the nations." And another angel, the third one, followed him, saying with great voice, "If anyone worshippeth the beast and its image, and receiveth the mark on the brow or the hand, shall drink from the wine of Jehovah's furor, pure wine, concentrated, human lye, in the coup of his wrath, and shall be tormented in fire and sulfur, in the presence of the holy saints, and in the presence of the Lamb. The smoke of its torment riseth for the centuries of centuries, and have none repose nor in day nor in night, and those who worship the beast and its image, and those who receive the mark of its name. Here is the consistency of the chosen people, those who keep the commandments of Jehovah, and the faith in the Messiah. What do you see now? Another immortal angel. He signalizes the city that is in the Mount Zion, in the midst of the Sea of Lie, and says, "Behold the bride, the wife of the Lamb." This angel speaks for those who worship the Lamb, and promise them the salvation of the werewolves hiding himself in the city of Jehovah. Thus he says, "A city shall come from heaven, upon the Mount Zion, by Jehovah. Its place shall be similar to a precious stone, as a stone of jasper that emits crystalline sparkles. It shall have a great and elevated wall, in which 12 doors shall be. And over the doors, 12 angels, and names written on them, which are the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel. At the east, 3 doors, at the south, 3 doors, and at the west, 3 doors. The wall of the city shall have 12 bases, and upon them, 12 names, of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. And the angel uses a golden reed to measure the city, its doors and wall. The city will be seated in quadrangular form, and its longitude will be as long as its width. and measures the city with the reed and has 12,000 fields. Its longitude, its width, and its height are equal. And measures the wall, and has 144 elbows, according to the human measure, which is of the angel. And the angel says, the material of the wall will be jasper, and the city of pure gold, similar to the pure crystal. The bases of the walls of the city shall be decorated with every kind of precious stones. The first base will be jasper, the second sapphire, the third chalcedony, the fourth emerald, the fifth birthstone, the sixth cornelian, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth topaz, the 10th agate, the 11th hyacinth, and the 12th amethyst. The 12 doors shall be 12 pearls. Each door shall be of just one pearl, as shining crystal. There shall be none sanctuary there, because its sanctuary shall be Elohim, Jehovah Sabaoth, and the Lamb, and the city would not need from the sun, neither the moon to illuminate it. Because the Zephyrah of Jehovah shall illuminate it, and his lamp shall be the Lamb. And the nations will march towards its light, and the kings of the earth shall take it to its glory. Its doors will be never closed in the day, and there will never be night there. And they shall take there the glory and honor of the nations. None impure thing shall enter there, not consecrated by the priests of Israel, neither those who have the abominable sign, but the registered in the book of the life of the Lamb. What do you see now? A river of living water, from which emerges all the created things that emerge from the trunk Keter of Jehovah and the Lamb. The angel pronounces the last words. In the midst of the square, and at one side and the other of this river, shall be a tree of life, that will give 12 fruits, one each month. And the leaves of the pomegranate tree will serve to cure the nations of the sin against Jehovah. And there will be no more condemnation for anyone, and the trunk of Jehovah and the Lamb shall be there, and their servants will officiate them cult. They will see his countenance, and will carry his name in the brow. And there will be none nights, nor infinite blackness, but they will not need a lamp nor sunlight. Because Jehovah Elohim will illuminate them, and they will reign for the centuries of centuries. What do you see now? I see the final battle. I see the Führer and his army of werewolves taking the Isle of Zion by assault, and surprising the celestial Jerusalem, which is Shambhala, and causing huge casualties amongst their dwellers. Neither Chuban, nor the 3/4 parts of heaven, positions of God, achieve to stop the furious wolves. The Lamb, and the 144,000 priests, are cornered in the damned city, constructed with the body of the dragon. And they died by thousands. They prefer to die before seeing the sign of the vril of the werewolves. And the dragon city beats and twists without achieving to take the werewolves out of them. And the immortal eyes of the dragon shed boundless tears, tears that roll towards the quadruple western wall, tears of mercy for the sons of Israel. But the werewolves do not yield, and sink his fangs into the children of Israel, in the Lamb and in the dragon. And the Virgin of Agatha nails her flag in the western wall, which is as the heart of Bina, the owner of all the hearts. Yes, in the heart of Avalokiteshvara has been planted the sign of the vril, the mark that causes the black, the hard, and the cold of the stones, and through the western wall falls her tears, as emerged from a miraculous waterfall. And a hard and cold mists fall down upon Zion, is the cold death of the Virgin, the death that snatches the heat from the hearts of the Lamb, and of the 144,000 saints of Israel, the death that releases those who see in the mists the werewolves of stone that form the army of the Führer. What do you see now? The final battle continues on earth, but I cannot see what happens there, because I see the white wild boars that flee, prey of the panic to hide themselves in heaven. They are chased by a part of the army of werewolves of stone. But in the heaven, just the 4th part of the stars remains. The moment has come. The end is the same that the beginning," exclaimed Uncle Kurt surprisingly.